just want to say thank you for you guys taking time to sit down with Native Voices for Energy. And it's my understanding you're working, I'm not sure what capacity, maybe you'd like to share with us on the relocation project.
Yeah, so my name is Taysha Kilsenemy of Whitebird Services, formerly known as Taysha Martin of Camp McGeezy. Um, Before this, I was an environmental protester. For 8 long years, I fought the Enbridge Line 3, and after going through a lot of healing and educating myself, I now work within industry. I work with Whitebird Services, and oftentimes we subcontract for Enbridge, and I'm really happy and grateful to be out here on the Line 5.
Tuju Gakana Wea, Jason, former Enbridge worker, employee. I joined Taysha during part of that time, and now I'm back. We're both back together working for Enbridge and contractors. I'm working for Michaels in Peter's Mat Yard, Laydown Yard.
Thank you. It's my understanding I found out that you had an experience with some cultural and some protection things that happened. Do you want to share about that?
Yeah, when I first started out, I was on the environmental crew, and we had put up turtle fences to keep the turtles from coming in and laying their eggs and getting trampled on, and just keep them in a contained area where they're natural nesting area, so they don't wander. And it felt pretty good setting those up, and we seen a turtle right at the deadline of trying to get the fence in, and it was making its way over. And glad to keep those turtles and those turtle eggs safe. Also in the laydown yard, we had some killdeer ready to nest, and we always had to keep an eye out for them and their nests. And if there was, we'd have to put containment around the nest and to keep the eggs from getting trampled.
Yeah, I'm a laborer. I work for the local 1091 laborers, and you know, I've worked in a lot of different spaces within construction, and seeing the amount of care that Enbridge puts into ensuring that even our smallest relatives are respected and protected, it means a lot to me. I've seen the turtle fences go in. It's pretty impressive the lengths that Enbridge is willing to go, and just the level of respect that is there. That they've researched where these turtles' habitats are, how we can prevent them from coming into any sort of harm, and it's just like, as Indigenous people, we're taught that we're all related. Even the smallest animal out there is a relative and is deserving of our care and our respect. And seeing a pipeline company go above and beyond to do something like that, it really touches you somewhere, like as Indigenous people, and understanding that our stories, they're respected, they're out there, they're educating themselves, they're learning, they're building relationships, they're communicating. And we've come a long ways from those 8 long years where we were fighting with Enbridge to the point where, if I have a concern out there, I can go to my foreman, my supervisor, anyone else within the company and voice that. And it carries a lot more weight, not because of like who I was before, but just that level of respect that once you hit that ground out there, as a worker, everyone's treated with the same level of respect, and they listen and they really do care. And I feel like, like something as small as a turtle, for people who don't understand the deep meaning that the turtle has to us as Ojibwe people, and just to see that level of care, it means the world to me.
Yeah, adding to that, it's just even when we were water protectors in opposition of Line 3, we started noticing Enbridge maybe we're paying attention to some of our concerns, about invasive species and things like that. And we noticed some of these things were getting litigated and adjusted to. And I was like, wow, that's actually kind of cool. They listened, listened to some of our articles and our Facebook lives and adjusted themselves to it, invasive species and and rutting and you know, are harming cattail plants, you know, which to some may seem very minuscule, but you know, wetlands are very important to us indigenous folks. There's a lot of medicine in that, and you know, and they went above and beyond, and it was very surprising actually to see that all this stuff that I was kind of not really aware of before as a contractor, and you know, because I didn't really actually work on the right of way much. I worked in the mat yard, and I just hear stuff, you know. Oh, they did this and they did that, and then when I became a water protector, and now I worked a little bit on the right of way and a little bit on, you know, other projects. I see the level of care that is actually done. Before I was kind of blind to it, you know, because like I said, I didn't actually work on the main line as much, and seeing all the practices done and preached. So
Yeah, I think that's something I'm really excited about as well. Is, you know, like I'm proud to be a pipeliner. I can say that now, and I'm also proud of, you know, who I was before this, because it's not like I'm a completely different person. You know, those strong environmental values that I've always carried, I get to carry into my work, and I think that's what makes it so meaningful for me. Is, you know, like I'm part of a new status quo of Indigenous women who are taking back controls of their lives, their bodies, and their finances by being out here and providing for our families. And it's a beautiful thing to see, you know, more and more women enter the trades and be respected and understand that, you know, like we have the right to take space anywhere. And, you know, for me lately, that's been industry.
what's really nice is that they take opinions of everyone, not just monitors or inspectors or anyone. They're willing to take opinions and problems that may arise, and you know, and actually weigh the differences of how to litigate and mitigate an issue that may arise. Um, you know, there's many things that can be improved upon, and Enbridge is willing. It feels good.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed that. You know, because you meet a lot of people in the trades and they'll tell you, you know, this is all I've known. I've been doing this my whole life. You know, I feel like, you know, Jason and I, we have a really interesting story and we're happy to be here and sharing part of it. You know, like we come from both sides of the fence, literally. And it's been interesting, you know, further educating myself as opposed to just listening to what I'm being told by others, but getting out there and using my lived experience to create positive impacts out there. You know, I've been able to help young women enter the trades. I've been able to, you know, guide people into, you know, the right kind of trainings for them, figuring out what it is they want to do with their life, as opposed to before, you know, a few years back, I really thought there was only one way to be an Indian, and that was to fight a pipeline. And, you know, nowadays that's just not true. There's so many people on so many different paths of lives, and it's been so healing to be able to respect everyone for what path they're on.
Yeah, and add into that, I noticed that the trades will actually help you become more independent, be able to get you to a ceremony, be able to get you to places of cultural interest. And a lot of the Enbridge has donated to our reservation to help with ceremonial buildings and things like that for our people to gather. And you know, I don't know for sure, but I think our dance hall, where our ceremonial drum is and dances take place, might have been partially funded by Enbridge, and don't quote me on that. But I know the other one, our ceremonial hall for funerals, it was definitely help funded by Enbridge, and it. So you know, it's really grateful that you can utilize independence and money as a tool, not as a thing that's going to be evil or negative. Money is a tool to help you gain independence and gain culture and get to the places of a special ceremony and interest. So.
Yeah, I had, you know, my best friend, when I first started Pipeline, um, we used to have talks all the time about, you know, what it was I was fighting. Why was I so fired up and angry about it? And for me, a big thing that was talked about was missing murdered Indigenous women, Two-Spirit, and relatives. And this was a conversation her and I had, and she said, these issues exist within our community, whether industry does or not, and it's on each of us as individuals and as a whole to seek out that healing. And I feel like, you know, she's no longer with us. She did end up passing away, and for me it was like a shock to my system, because my whole life I was taught that industry workers are at the top of this unspoken food chain, and it's never supposed to be us. But I still lost one of my best friends to violence, and that was something we talked about and joked about all the time. Was that when we work line five, work line five, and so coming out here, I'm able to kind of honor her in a way, as well as Tom, who was one of the owners of the company I work for, who also recently passed. So, being out here for me, it's not just like I'm here for a paycheck. It's not here for political ambitions. It's really to honor the people who were on my side and in my life when no one else was. So it's really exciting to be able to be out here and continue this journey of educating myself and further exploring industry. And it's been really eye-opening. You get to know these people out here and you realize, like, you're just like me. Whether we have these big strong opinions that divide us or not, at the end of the day, we all want to go home safe to our families.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of the companies, like the ones me and Taysha worked for together, treat us like family, like a big family. Some are actually family owner operators, of the companies we work for. I don't want to name drop, but and indigenous owned even. So it's really nice that actually to be able to identify and relate with everyone around me and the company policies and procedures and beliefs, and it's really nice that we all get treated fairly. We all get helped along if we need a little extra help, equity, and I know others that they were struggling with a camper or camping spot, so they were able to get them a camping spot, and it's very nice, to be treated as family and get a hand up instead of a handout.
Yeah, we really look out for each other out here. Our crew often will cook for each other, just little things. Kindness goes such a long way, and it's been such a beautiful area to be in, because we are guests here. Like, we're from Fond du Lac, so we're also 1854, but we understand that in the space that we're taking, we are guests. So we try to be really respectful and mindful of that, especially when we're out and about in community. And it's been really beautiful area, really great people that we've got to meet, and there's been so many opportunities outside of work for us to pursue culture, and it's been great, having tribal people within tribal communities and areas. I feel like it just clicks, it just makes sense. So I've been really happy to see more and more Indigenous people working on these projects, and I feel like there's a lot more care that goes into it when you're of this land. And that's been something that a lot of our non-tribal coworkers have been, understanding and educating themselves about. And it's all learning. And yeah, it's been really beautiful experience. I've been so grateful to be able to be out here, and then, it's not too far away where I can't go home on the weekends and be with the kids. And it's been a really great opportunity for someone who grew up, with food insecurity and in poverty, and to be able to go home. If my kids need something, I'm able to provide, and it's a really powerful feeling.
Yeah, like they said about working with non-natives, and I was a cultural monitor, tribal monitor for a little bit on Line 3 removal and restoration, and there was this one particular oiler, and he was, whenever they'd set the bucket down, take a break and talk some paperwork and things like that, he'd be looking on the ground with me, looking for cultural finds, and lithics and artifacts and things of cultural and things, and like, is this? And I'd be like, oh yeah, and discuss it a little bit, and I'd describe little things that I knew, and even a couple of my supervisors said, oh, that guy's really helpful, It was pretty nice that he took that care of level of interest as I did because he seen me doing that and knew that it was important, that's something you only get from working close side by side in a family type unit, So
Yeah, you work anywhere from 60 to 80 hours of work with these people. It's hard not to get to know each other as people. It's hard not to build up, that sense of respect. And we really are a big family out here, and that's something that I've really enjoyed seeing too. Is like they want to learn, they want to know, they want to educate themselves because it does interest them. And the way I look at it is, like we can't stay stuck in the past thinking about what divides us when we're all here now trying to build something better.
yeah, and also knowing that we're indigenous folks are here, making sure the work is quality work, and not going to be shortcutted and take the extra mile. And some days it's really hot, and I just kind of want to let's just get it done with. And then I'm like, no, this is for my own homelands, my own ceded territory. I got to make sure I get. Then I get re-energized and do it right, because I take that level of care. And it's also amazing to see that other workers that are non-indigenous take that level of care as well. When they see me going the extra mile, they want to go the extra mile. Like, it's in a competitive way, but also in a good, healthy way too. Like, as a way to make sure we get it done right, and the level of care and the respect the lands we're in. So
Yeah, there's so many different. Construction is so much broader than I had thought before. Like before anyone to me in high vis, they were a pipeliner and they were a threat to me and my children and my way of life, and that was how I thought. And then when I entered the trades myself, I couldn't tell you the difference between a laborer, a teamster, a pipe fitter. I didn't know anything. I You don't know what you don't know. And then when you do get out here and you get to know these people, you understand that most of these men, their fathers, their grandpas, their uncles, they just want to go home at the end of the night safely. And so many of us out here, we take great pride in the work that we do. We want to do a good job. We want to make sure it's done right. And I think that out here, from what I've seen, there's been a lot of the extra mile, like this is a really big and controversial project, and we're hoping that we do a really beautiful job. And when the next one comes, we're ready to go.
I do appreciate both of you sharing and sharing your voice and your personal testimony back from your line 3 experiences as water protectors, environment protectors, protesters, and you're at this point in your journey, and I really appreciate the stories and again from the firsthand personal testimony and a lot of the things that you shared before I feel did impact the company and they listened and strengthened that relationship. And so, again, I'm just purely grateful for your time to share this point and hope to speak to you again before the project is finished so we can kind of continue following you on your journey with with this particular issue and company.